students, today we are going to discuss on the features of planning. Planning focuses on achieving objectives. Planning is a primary function of management. Planning is pervasive. Planning is continuous. Planning is futuristic. Planning involves decision making. Planning is a mental exercise. Planning focuses on achieving objectives. That is, plan is purposeful. Purposeful being useful. It has no meaning unless it contributes to the achievement of predetermined organizational goals. When you're setting your plans, make sure that it contributes towards achieving your organizational goals and objectives. If you look at the picture in the center, it says a goal without a plan is just a wish. So therefore, management should focus on achieving its goals and objectives. Secondly, planning is a primary function of management. Planning is the primary or the first function of management to be performed by every manager. You can say in bullet points I have put planning, organizing, staffing, directing and controlling. What are these? These are the functions of management. So what is the first function? It is planning, and this has to be performed by every manager. If you do not perform the first function, then it is not possible to take up the remaining functions. Planning is pervasive. That is, planning is essential for every sort of business activities. Planning is universal, whether it is a small business or a large business. You need to have a plan. And planning is needed at all levels of management. That is, at top level, middle level or operational level, you require planning. And planning is needed for every department. But however, the way the planning is being done differs from department to department. Let me give you an example. Top level management will sit and make or formulate strategies and objectives for business. Whereas in case of various departments, let me give you an example of production department. Production department planning or focus will be on checking on raw materials, making sure there is a supply of materials so that the production will go on very smoothly. So now we can say that planning is needed at all levels of management and department. But the scope of planning differs. Planning is continuous. Once you finish one particular plan, you go ahead with another plan. Yes or no? Once plan is set and achieved, there is need for new plan to be drawn on the basis new requirements and future conditions. Once you have achieved your plan, you have reached your target, you come across with another new one. And this is the basis for your new planning. It all depends upon your requirements and your future conditions. For example, you need to make a plan for post-COVID-19 as to how your business is going to function in future. Planning is futuristic. Futuristic being looking ahead, seeing the future. Planning involves looking ahead and preparing for the future. It implies peeping into the future, analyzing it and predicting it. Hence, planning is regarded as a forward-looking function. Planning helps managers to look ahead, meaning it helps them to predict the future, to see the future. There are people, businessmen, looking now how to survive in the present situation, how to overcome the situation of pandemic. So they are sitting and analyzing it, predicting it. There is a prediction saying that the mobile companies are going to manufacture crores of mobile phones by the end of 2025. Hence, now I can say planning is regarded as forward looking function, nothing but looking ahead. For example, this is how you make your personal plans. You are in your PUC, you will be thinking of your future. How safe is going to be my family, when I'm going to start to work, what am I going to buy, and how my house is going to be, what kind of car I'm going to buy, and so many other things. Planning involves decision making. That is, planning arises only when alternatives are available. We just learned it under the importance of planning. Managers need to find out what are the alternatives that are available. So now planning arises when there are alternatives. Managers need to think and decide which alternative is really good. So how will you find out which one is good? For that you need to make an examination. You need to evaluate those alternatives. Then you will choose the best alternative. And choosing involves selecting that alternative which has less negative consequences but with lot of profitability options. Planning is a mental exercise, as mind involves foreseeing, imagination, and sound judgment. It is basically an intellectual activity of thinking rather than doing. So the entire process of planning is running inside your head. So now we can say planning is a mental exercise because you're foreseeing, you're seeing your future, you have imagination, you are trying to be innovative and creative. At the same time, you're making a sound judgment, you're thinking, you're analyzing, yes, is this good or bad? So now we can say the entire process is of thinking rather than doing. Limitations of planning. Planning leads to rigidity. That means once a well-defined plan is drawn, manager may not be in a position to change it. So plans as such are being done by the top level management. And once they draw the plan, the managers cannot change it. Planning reduces creativity. Planning is done by whom? Top level management. Managers are just implementing it. What will happen to the manager's creativity? Everything is lost. Planning is a time consuming process. Planning requires collection of information, its analysis and interpretation consumes time. That means in order to think, analyze, evaluate, all this requires a lot of time. So we can say planning is a time consuming process. Planning involves huge costs. When plans are drawn up, huge costs are involved in formulation of plans. So when you're thinking of starting a new business, it involves a huge cost. Yes? Likewise, for example, expenses on board meetings, discussions with professional experts, and preliminary investigations to find out the feasibility of the plan. Now you have the alternative plan. For that, you need to call for the board meeting. You need to discuss with the professionals. You need to make certain ground investigation as to find out which one is the best plan. So now we can say planning involves huge cost. Planning does not guarantee success. The success of an enterprise is possible only when plans are properly drawn up and implemented. Let me give you an example. What do managers will do? Probably whatever that previous plan they had, they might use it in the current situation, and this may not hold good. So success of the plan is not at all guaranteed. Therefore, managers need to draw new plans every time. Planning may not work in a dynamic environment. The business environment is dynamic. The organization has to constantly adapt itself to the changes in the business environment. We have discussed an entire chapter about business environment, and we know that there are various elements of business environment like technological, social, economic, political, and legal environment which indirectly influence the activities of your business. Hence, planning may not work in a dynamic environment. Thank you.